My name's Daniel Allen, and I'm here from an organisation called Sports Key. At our heart, we're a community sports organisation that's really started from community roots. Myself and two other like-minded friends started the organisation 12 years ago, and we had a bit fewer grey hairs and we're much younger. With the notion of really trying to get people from our local community, which is Birmingham, more active. At the time, and we're talking like 10, 12 years ago, there was a national narrative from sports providers that people weren't being active enough, particularly when you were looking at ethnically diverse communities and those from sort of urban deprived backgrounds. So we set on a mission to really try and activate people in communities. And how that's evolved over the years and where it stands now is we run a community program, which essentially every day we run different activities in the community, from community netball, football, badminton, boxing, cycling, table tennis, to even buggy runs. So we try and get parents with young children to get active whilst with their kids. And we've throughout the years, we've just thought, what are the barriers and challenges that present themselves to people to become physically active? So that program really just tries to remove all barriers, both locally, logistically, and financially, to try and get people active. Aside from that, we also run a range of mentor programs for young people. We run a volunteer program looking at our future leaders and how we can bring young people to the fore of prominent positions. We deliver on a range of social events for our community and people a bit wider afield. And we also deliver organizational development programs as well to help our local ecosystem of other charities, CICs, and social enterprises. So we try and keep as busy as we can locally, and the organization has just evolved over the years. And I suppose this next slide really just, it's a visual representation of our reach. Now, you can see many blobs on the screen. Some of them are blobs in front of blobs, but ultimately what this slide represents is our near 2,000 registered members. Now, we're immensely proud of the impact that we're having, particularly in Birmingham, because because of the amount of lives that we've touched and the impact we've had on those lives through all of our various different programs. But whilst we are immensely proud of our reach, we also recognize that actually we could be doing a lot more to impact people where they are the most. Now, as we all know, most of us spend most of our day at work. We spend most of our week at work. We spend most of our month, year. We spend most of our lives at work. So where we are the most is at work. And we acknowledge that as an organization, we can be doing a lot more to impact people where they are the most, which is in the workplace. So enter the enterprise zone with the strap line where business meets workplace well-being. Now, we get it. What we're trying to do is basically bring our multi-sport model, our vibrancy, our energy, our sort of social interaction to the workplace. We get that people who work, once they finish work, not everyone has got the motivation to get home, unpack their bags, repack their bags with sports gear, particularly in light of lifestyle circumstances, whether that be kids, whether that just be lifestyle getting in the way, to go out and then finish work and then go back out to their local gym or sports club. So our mantra is, how can we get activity in the workplace? And that's what we're trying to do this year with our whole product and service, which is the enterprise zone, which I'll go into a bit more detail about in just a moment. But I suppose what is the case for those that are on the call that may be employers or businesses? How do we make the case for workplaces becoming more workplace well-being friendly? For me, as a very much a sports advocate, I know that when I'm suffering in terms of my own mental health and stress, I always use sport and physical activity as an outlet. So every time I take part in sport, I instantly feel better. I think sport is a massive contributor to why I very rarely get sick, touch wood. And I just believe sport and physical activity should be almost a given in people's lives and lifestyle. But again, there's barriers and lifestyles that get in the way. But some of the research backs up why employers should be thinking about workplace well-being. So if you take it from left to right on the top of the screen, so from some research, physically active employees have demonstrated 27% fewer sick days. Piece of research has demonstrated that for those employers that have invested £1 into workplace wellbeing programs, they're achieving on average a £5.30 return on that investment across a variety of different measures, in terms of trying to impart those packages in their workplace. 72% achieve better time management in another piece of research when active before or during work, which is very critical to the work that we're conducting. If we go to the bottom right, we can see that productivity went up 21% in a particular study, and absenteeism dropped by 41%, which is massive. And I suppose it lends itself to companies who do implement workplace wellbeing ratings. It demonstrates that those employees that feel better about themselves due to being physically active, whether that be self-esteem, better body image, just general energy and competition from what sport and physical activity provides, it shows that they then impart and bring that into the workplace basically. And just due to being more healthy, they're less likely to be absent from the workplace, and more likely to show higher rates of productivity. And that all sort of feeds into the last stat, which is of particular interest to me. Around 89% of employees recommending employers who prioritize workplace well-being. And I suppose it lends itself to how do we all think and feel about our workplaces, particularly when we're in social settings, whether that be with friends and family, whether you're at a pub or something social. How do you talk about your workplace? How do you feel on a Sunday night when you think about that dreaded Monday morning, going back to that dreaded Monday morning shift? Is that something you look forward to or something you dread? And I suppose by having workplace wellbeing programs, employees on that Sunday night look at the workplace a lot more fondly, and that's what we want. We want people to go into work wanting to go into work. A provider or a business that did think about workplace wellbeing is Camelot. So for those that maybe don't know, Camelot is the agency behind the National Lottery. So Camelot invited us in thinking about the whole workplace wellbeing measures. And again, we're not saying what Sportskey do, and what I'm going to demonstrate to you is the be all and end all. What we want to do is be part of that pie, that workplace wellbeing pie. We want to provide that physical activity, but we recognize that workplaces will also want to and should implement things around mental well-being, around mindfulness, around nutrition, around restfulness, around sleeping patterns. We want to try and provide that physical activity element. So with Camelot, what we've done is, the premise was we set up a variety of sports stations in their car park. The idea was that during their lunch break, which was from 12 till 2, employees were free to sort of have lunch and then roam out into their car park, would be greeted by us, and they could take part in a variety of different sporting activities ranging from tennis, boxing, netball, as you can see on the screen, football, and a range of other different activities and challenges. Now, it made for a really fun-filled day, and some of the feedback was really overwhelmingly positive, with employees saying that they had fun. They went back to their desk feeling energized, enlightened, and just generally felt good about the workplace. And from an employer perspective, they got kudos because the employer have actually thought about them, and it made it feel like the employer thought about their well-being and doing something that provides a bit of activity and breaks up that boring, tedious, monotonous day. So the feedback was really overwhelmingly positive. Everyone had a great time, and it made for great office banter here afterwards, because I suppose people who people thought might not be great at sport and physical activity basically outshone and showed people up basically. But ultimately the activities are very inclusive. They're made for anyone of any level of activity or ability, and that was key, that everyone had fun and felt like they could do it together. It's very interesting that what we also want to do is get people to think and feel about physical activity in their own lives and personal lives as well. And even if we can, as a byproduct, if we can be the catalyst that when people go home, they think, actually, I quite enjoyed that. I quite actually enjoyed playing tennis, or I quite actually enjoyed having a, then people may contact or their local netball club or local tennis club, or come down to a Sportskey community session, or it might be the catalyst for them to then rediscover the gym. So again, that's really part of our mantra and part of what we're trying to do here. And as I've been through and as I've mentioned, the Sportskey Enterprise Hour, which is what this service is called. We essentially are going into office car parks. We can even do this at if you've got an office studio, or you might have a space on the office floor which is big enough for us to conduct these sessions. And it really is sort of during the lunch hour or lunch period, or whatever period is appropriate for the workplace. It's about us coming in and just trying to really ingrain that sport and physical activity into the workplace. And as you can see here by some more video footage, it's really informal. People just rock up and take part, and it just leads to a healthier and more vibrant workplace, we find. This, I'm just going to give it a mention, but this is our enterprise games, which is almost a level up from our enterprise hour. This is still in development, and it's something we'll be launching next year, which feels like a long way away to talk about, but 2027, where workplaces that are taking place in the workplace, in the enterprise hour rather, we'll be running a one-day event where workplaces can send representatives and they'll take part in inclusive sporting activity against other businesses, basically. But more about that to be revealed in due course. And yeah, for those on the call who are interested and may want to think about the enterprise hour, or just generally want to know a bit more about our organization and how we operate, there's a big QR code rather, in the middle of the screen. By all means, take a picture of that, or link, or sort of connect it via your phones, and that will take you to our website. On our website, in order to book the enterprise hour, there's a short expression of interest form that gives us all the information we need, and hopefully we'll see you at the office. Mitzi will also be sharing the presentation, hopefully, so that will go around, and anyone that does want to inquire or contact me, my contact details will be on all the information thereafter, to ask any questions or to follow up. Now, we are also, just to make you aware, doing a special offer. So we're still doing a number of pilots. So any organization or business that wants us to conduct the enterprise hour can get us to do so completely free of charge. So we're offering the first 5 businesses the enterprise hour for free. So please do let me know if you'd like to take advantage of that also. And then, yeah, I suppose all in all, whilst I'm here to sort of speak about the sports key piece of the pie in terms of trying to help with physical activity and our services, it's also about just workplace well-being as a wider initiative, and the need for it. As you can see here, it helps boost staff morale and cohesion. It's a unique networking opportunity. For those that couldn't hear the testimonial video, there's a guy there named Graham who made a really valid point that in just doing the enterprise hour and having us come to the workplace and deliver activity, it was his one opportunity, because he's always head down in the job. It was his one opportunity to actually go around and talk to staff. He actually didn't know what some staff do and stuff about their personal lives, which he actually just only learn by taking part in the sort of physical activity and having that brain space to kind of actually go around and speak to people. So it's kind of diluted, but it is very important in terms of being that networking opportunity for you to go around and talk to other employees and other parts of the business. As we know, we're all sort of in the job, working day to day on what it is we do. So it's good to have that I suppose that space to meet and speak to people. Healthy, active employee engagement, great for team building, as I've mentioned, improved employee relationships, reduce sickness and absences as we've been through, improving employee retention, and just improving employee outlook on the business and productivity. So there's a number of things and metrics of why workplace well-being and implementing things such as this is very important. And again, other ways to get active at work, at home, and in the community, in the workplace. Well, as we've been talking through, hopefully people want to do the enterprise hour. But aside from that, there's the workplace champions, which Mitzi is very aware of, which essentially is an initiative where they host a range of different resources and ways that people can get active. So hopefully Mitzi will share the details of the workplace champions that organizations and businesses can sign up to. If people don't want to be active and doing a lot of running up and down in the workplace, there's breath work, just simply sitting at the desk and doing breathing and meditation, perhaps whilst on their lunch, and desk stretches. This one is in bold, on the desk treadmill. I think more and more workplaces and people are utilizing these. I don't know if people have seen it, but if you go on Google and type in on the desk treadmill, it's a treadmill. It's not massive and bulky as some treadmills that we like to think about these days. It's a really sort of succinct treadmill that can be put under a desk or workspace or just in a room, and that can be great for just walking. Um, the recommendation is that we try and walk at least 10,000 steps a day, which is really hard to achieve for most people. Um, and I think 10,000 steps is something like 5 miles. So if you want to get your 5 miles in per day, getting an under this treadmill will really help you towards hitting that target. Seated yoga or chair Pilates, wall angels. For anyone that's tried wall angels, it's incredibly helpful, but you will maybe look like a bit of a weirdo doing wall angels against the wall in the office. So please just make people aware before you start doing those. Resistance band workouts. Again, you can do various different band workouts in an isolated stationary position where again, you're not utilizing much office space or office floor. Walking meetings is something that I know has and was really implemented across workplaces. So again, just having meetings which aren't too high level, maybe walking around your local area of the business might help just again get those steps in. Take the stairs campaigns. People might not, employers may not like this one, but just taking the stairs at work, getting everyone across the business. Hopefully, you've got stairs to take the stairs more. Active seating. So rather than sitting on a chair like I am, maybe using a stability ball, and that's a really creative and simplistic way of being active and sort of getting the muscles working. And desk pong. So here at Sportski, we have obviously we have a desk, and sometimes we just move the stuff off the desk, and we have these table tennis nets, and we just play a bit of table tennis as a way to keep active as well. So that's some real simplistic ways of being active in the workplace. At home, again, YouTube is a great way. You've got so much influencers and fitness influencers per se on YouTube that you can tap into. Again, under this treadmill is great for utilizing at home. Yoga, Pilates, um, couch to 5K. Again, maybe during lunch, you could step out the house and just do 5K might be hard because it takes about half an hour. Well, 30 to 40 minutes for the average person to do a 5K. Takes me about 45 if I'm honest. So maybe leave enough time to have lunch on that one. And then again, breath work and mindfulness whilst at home. In the community, hopefully, after hearing some of this and seeing some of our community work, many people might want to try and come to a Sportski community session. But I'm aware that there's people on the call that are falling in, well, sort of dialing in from further afield to Birmingham. So you might want to look at whoever your local organisations and sports clubs that you can connect with. Here we've got a entity called Active Birmingham who have an activity finder. So on their website, they provide all of the activity from a sport, physical activity, and movement context across Birmingham. And there are similar tools in similar areas. So I'll send a link to Mitzi of what might be around for other organizations, businesses to tap into in their area. Obviously, there's the gym. We recognize that not everyone will go through the doors of a gym due to confidence, motivation, and just local walking groups or cycling schemes. And yes, sports clubs in the area. So those are just a few nuggets of how people might think about trying to become active this year. And again, I've mentioned at length the Sports Key Enterprise Zone. So anyone that does want to register their interest, you've got the QR codes on screen. Mitzi will be sending around my details. So by all means, give me a shout. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. I think I am bang on 11:30, which is my brief. So hopefully that's provided some food for thought for everyone.